Carol, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, I like to start every interview by asking guests, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, there's like four answers to that. One is I wanted to be an archaeologist, but I wasn't sure what that was. Two, I knew that I didn't know. So a lot of times,
Mm,
what do you want to do when you grow up? All I knew is I didn't know.
mm.
So I guess it's just three. The other one is I was really involved with horses when I was a teenager.
Ah,
And my identity for a while, and I remember thinking this, like walking through the stables and thinking, I am an equestrian. And that
oh,
was
that's beautiful.
identity until I broke my ankle and discovered you should never have a career that depends on your being physically.
Mm. So, from the point where you were in love with horses
Mhm.
to the work you do today, what led you to this work? Was it a straight line? Did you know in college, as an undergrad, that this is the type of work that you wanted to do? Could you tell us what you do today and then the path to where you got to today?
So today, what I do is a few things. So one is I've written my first book, The Real-Time Leadership, Find Your Winning Moves When the Stakes Are High, and really interested in how do we find those winning moves. And that does go back to my childhood.
Hmm.
Because when I was young, I was put ahead a grade. And as a result, I often felt a bit lost, very young looking for my age. And then B, I was at least a year younger than everybody else. So I often
Hmm.
lost. So there's something about the book I love because it helps people who feel lost. And
Hmm.
people who feel lost now that I'm working with are CEOs of multi-billion-dollar
Hmm.
companies feel lost in very similar ways to a little kid can feel lost when you're
Hmm.
facing a mountain that's just so high.
In your book, how you talk about how you help people who are lost, right? If not everyone who's listening knows about coaching or know how it applies to their own life, or maybe thinking, I'm not a CEO of a multi-billion dollar company. I don't know. Tell us how all of that relates.
Okay, how I got in this direction, I blame my mother because I was in college. I was already a psychology major,
Mm,
but I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I remember
mm,
my mother and I were in the garden weeding
mm.
and digging and talking about I didn't know. And I guess I must have started whining. But she finally looked at me, sort of snapped at me and said, Carol, just figure out what you love to do and figure out how to get paid for it. But
Wow.
I was still kind of lost. I go, but
Mm.
mom, I don't know what I want to do. And she goes, well, just give yourself some time or whatever. Anyway, the phone rang and it was one of my friends and she wanted some advice and we were talking and that was fine. Then I came back out to more weeding. And then in an hour or so, still weeding, another person called. So anyway, by the third person, I went, oh, this is what I love to do.
Mm,
I love to talk to people and figure things out so they are less lost. That's
mm.
what I do. So I first did that as a psychologist and specialized with people. I was a trauma psychologist for many years. And then one day I went to a workshop in coaching and I won coaching as the door prize. I won
Ah,
the tuition. And I was very quickly stunned at how different coaching is from therapy or consulting or leadership, because it's really sort of got the eye to the future, navigate through your strengths and through asking questions. And
mm,
very, very, very different and a powerful and very shame-free way of
mm.
helping.
That's beautiful. When I heard you speak at a recent event, you said something that really struck me and that really stayed with me. You said, even after you have a lot of experience, you've done a lot of coaching, coached a lot of leaders, and done a lot of amazing things, and you love coaching just as much as you did the first day.
Yep, it's true. Here's how I describe myself. It's a little embarrassing. So here's me in a coaching session. Say you're my client and you have this thorny issue, and you're like, Carol, da 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 da, and you tell me. And so how I experience that is like I'm a puppy, and you have
Mm.
just thrown me a bone of something you want to think about, and I need to throw it over, and I go bounding after it, and I pick it up, and I come back, and I'm like, okay, another one. And I had once a very poignant discussion with a woman who was a CHRO of a multi-billion dollar company. And I was just telling her that, I forget why. She said, wow, I wish I felt like a puppy at work.
Oh.
I wish I loved
Mm.
it that much.
Mm. That makes me almost feel emotional. So I was first in my family to go to college. My background's in accounting. And I had financial security. And my favorite part of the day was when people came into my office to talk about their problems. And I did not feel like a puppy. I felt like I was doing what I should be doing. Now I wake up excited. I love Mondays. I look forward to my work day. I feel incredibly blessed, like the luckiest woman in the world to get to do this work. And that was part of the reason I started this podcast, that people could hear stories like you who love what they do.
Yeah.
And so that if there's a CHRO listening to this podcast and feels that way, she can say, well, Carol found a way to do what she loves.
And so did that CHRO, by the way. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of ways we can recraft what we do. Those of us who are fortunate enough to be coaches and we love the coaching. But in anything, I think that you can figure out what it is. One of the things we talk about in the book is the 3 dimensions of leadership, which is what you need to do. So what do I need to do? Then my own personhood, who do I need to be? How do I need to relate? So I think that when you're on that journey, a lot of what's important is to figure out on that second dimension, who do I want to be? What is it that is my purpose and what do I love doing? How can you know that? Know like what you did. You knew when people came into your office and talked to you that that was the highlight of your day. You knew that. And then how we can take what we learn about ourselves and find a way to bring it into how to sort of wrap our work around it. Because some of us can leave for new professions. Others have to find the joy and the energy in what they're doing.
Yes, 100%. And then when you say the relate part, what do you mean by that?
Oh, thank you for asking. In any interaction, what we believe is that you need to have at least 4 options open for how you want to relate to someone or how you want to relate to any challenge. So very happy that HBR is going to publish an article on it in the January-February.
Congrats.
Thank you. Called The Power of Options. And what it is that, okay, so how do I need to relate, for example? So let's say you've come into my office. It's the end of the day. I'm tired. You have really fallen down on the job. Okay, so I've got 4 options that I want everybody, every leader, every person to have available to them, which is, and it's sort of based on evolutionary theory. It's based on our reflexes of fight, flight, freeze, friend. And then in non-life and death, I think of it as leaning in, leaning back, leaning with, or not leaning. So at the end of my day, someone comes in, they've dropped the ball. I really want to be able to choose how to relate in that moment and not go with my reflexes. So my reflexes might be like, I can't believe it. What went on? Or my reflex could be, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Or the whole idea is I would be able to say, now listen, it was really important to do this and it's not okay that you dropped the ball. Or I could say, listen, if we look at all of the data of what you've done, you have been really good about 80% of the time. So this time it's an issue. You did it. I want you to correct it, but I'm going with facts. The other one could be, oh, so Lupe, what happened that you weren't able to do it? Could I have supported you more? So leaning with the nurturance. Or you could not lean, which is just pause for a moment and reflect and see what comes to you. So that might be something like, if you ask yourself why you didn't get the work done, what comes to mind? And that might be the question that comes to me. So it's basically, do I relate in a way that's highly engaging, more data, nurturing, or reflective? And it's not that there's always one right way, but how do you know what's the right way with this person in this minute, whether you're talking about a situation like this or you're in a business development conversation and you're to get someone to buy a program? Do you intend to get them to do it? Do you give them lots of data? Do you give them support, or do you give them lots of space? And always having 4 options, and that's what they're calling the power of options.
And so this power of options is something that we all have access to in every situation, in every challenging situation that we come across as individuals.
Exactly. So the first part of the model is to be mindfully alert. So the thing is to just kick in that I have a choice.
Mm.
Something's coming at me. Wait a minute. What do I want to do? What do I need to do? Not to automatically go with your reflex, because that can lead you astray.
Well, and one of the things too that I've noticed in coaching conversations is that a lot of times as people, we can feel like we don't have a choice. And so there's something really powerful about knowing that we have choices in the way we react and the things we do. There's something really empowering about that.
Yeah. And there's always a small choice. If you don't have, again, this 3 dimensions of leadership or 3 dimensions of life, what's there, what's in here, what's between us, there's always some choice in there. You may not be in control of what's happening to you, but you can be in control of how you respond. So I'm thinking now of another HR woman. She was working with the top team and she's like, I can't do anything. And I said, they're yelling at each other and it's like hell and blah, blah, blah. And she said, so what can I do? And I said, well, okay. So I was thinking about that second dimension of change, your internal world, your internal response. So I said, we talked a bit, and what we came up with is that I asked her, how many times in one of these meetings do you get activated? Like a mental hijack. And she's like, at least 10. So our goal is in the meeting you're going to have in 3 hours, why don't you try to bring it down to 7? And of course, then it went down to like 3, because each time she started to get activated, it was like, oh, I don't need to be, I can choose not. I'm still mad in hell at what they're doing, but I don't have to be activated. So she was totally not in control of what these people were doing and deciding, but she did get to be in control of not being subject to her reflexes to fight, but have nothing to fight, which just left like her wheels spinning.
Yeah.
She wasn't in control of what they did, but she could be in control of her activation.
Well, and you mentioned these 3 dimensions of coaching. So is that when you were referring to the do, be, and relate? Or because this one you said
the know, do, and be, that's basically Frances Hesselbaum, who recently passed away at 107, who started the Girl Scouts.
Wow.
Yeah, she and some others started with this, what is leadership? And leadership is about what you know and what you do and who you are. And the emphasis being on who you are. And we talk about that in terms of the second dimension of leadership, which is what's going on inside of you. Your purpose, your values, your emotional regulation, and a number of those aspects. And when you get those down, you're much more able to choose in the other areas.
So the 3 dimensions are the internal, which is what you just talked about, and then the external, and then the space in between. Is that what you said?
It's like outside, inside, and in between. And any leadership moment, and this is in your family or at work, what is it you need to be doing? What is your external demand? One example for me is, okay, I'm walking into the dining room and my son, back when he was 11, decided to convince me that he's done with his homework and he should go watch TV. Okay, what's the external challenge here? So you think, okay, get the homework done. Let me see the homework. You need to get the homework done. Well, is that what you should be doing? Or what's a different external demand way to see what is it that's being asked of me to do? Or is it, I need to teach this boy discipline so that he can be a good student and successful? Or is my goal to have this kid love learning? So something as simple as you're walking in and it's homework time, you can be mindfully alert to, wait, what is my actual goal here? Rather than go in the reflex of just like, finish your homework. It looks totally messy. So then there's the 4 choices I just talked about: lean in, lean back, lean, don't lean. So there I am. I've decided externally, I'm going to go in that case with, yes, I want him to get the homework done, but I want him to also love learning. Okay. So internally to me, my inner second dimension is, do I have the emotional resources and resilience and regulation to actually not just react? And how good has my self-care been? So I walk in, and so I've decided, yes, I want to emphasize the love of learning rather than the discipline or get this homework done. Another time it's get the homework done, but not this time. So then in order to do that, do I sort of lean in and really actively engage about this and about whatever? Or do I lean back and be sort of more about the data? Do I lean with and be nurtured and say, so listen, hon, let's look at your homework. Let's see what learning is there. or do I not lean at all?
Mm.
In this case, I decided to, or somehow was able to not lean, which is unusual for me. That's the hardest stance, by the way, is to do nothing. And as I stood there, the question did come at me out of the blue, which I then asked my son. I said, well, listen, are you proud of your work? If you look at this and you're proud of your work, you can go watch TV. So he spent maybe another couple minutes or so looking at it, but it was a very different headset for him. So in this case, the 3 dimensions of leadership were, what do I want to do? Okay, let's get clarity on that, because it may not be so simple. In your team, you might think you're supposed to be like making that decision, merger and acquisition, or a decision about anything. Well, is that actually the goal, or is the goal, how do I help the team make the decision? So how do I do that? Can I do it? Do I have the emotional stability, fortitude to do it? And how do I need to relate in order to help the team? So that's always the 3 dimensions of leadership. And in those, the 4 stances of how I want to take on this challenge.
And so if you don't feel like you have the fortitude or you have the self-care, or if in that moment you wanted to lean in, but you just were tired from a long day, you'd had an emotional day at work, how do you deal with that then? Do you just decide that today is not the day to lean in? Or how do you think about that when you're thinking about maybe your 11-year-old is not wanting to do his homework, or you don't have the mental bandwidth to
do it? Yeah, I think we need self-compassion at a time like that, because you can only do what you can do. You can only stretch so far. And then sometimes it's like the cup is empty. I have 100 emails and it's just not there. Can't do it. And so how do I have a really good balance between self-challenge and self-compassion so that I don't let myself off the hook in a negative way, but I say, you know what? I just can't do that now. It's not there. I hit that a bunch of times when I was writing this book, and there was also a bunch of stressful things. And I had what I call forehead on the keyboard moments. I'm just going, like, I just literally, my head was down on the computer, and because there was the writing, and then there was a whole big other family deal going on, and just like, I just can't do it. And so then it's, what do you do? So then how do you figure out a way to replenish yourself as much as possible? And even small replenishments, 5 or 10 minutes sometimes, if it's during the day, can sort of boost you up again, whether it's a teeny power nap or taking 10 minutes off to read a novel in your book or play with your dog. You do these tiny replenishments. And there's research on that by Richard Boyatzis, that neurologically, when you just feel flat out, if you take these small breaks, it can be very useful.
Thank you for sharing that you were going through that as you were writing your book. Because I think sometimes people can think, or we can think, or maybe a listener can think, well, this is just me feeling this burnout or this tiredness. I hear this a lot with clients, especially clients who are parents who are just have young kids. They're feeling a lot of things. I know I'm in that stage right now. And this week was one of those weeks. And I thought, I haven't had a chance to take some of these small breaks.
Oh, yeah. Life is hell when you have young kids. It's wonderful. But, no. I'll tell you, I'm going to do parenting.
I wasn't expecting that.
And then there's the gooey years, like 1 and 3, and you're constantly gooey. Somebody's throwing up on you or something, and you're like, will I ever not be gooey then? But okay, I'll give you a couple parenting tips. So one of them is like, what do you do when you've gone in and you've set a limit? You're doomed. Like, it is not going to happen. And then you're like, but I can't just cave.
I can't back down.
I can't back down. So I was in one of those moments, and they just were like these feral beings staring at saliva and big teeth. They were 3 and 5. And I remember thinking, like, how can I do this? How can I do this? And so I remember I'm like, mommy. I'm like, stop. Wait. I looked up and I looked back down. I go, no, wait. Looked down and said, I changed my mind. It's okay.
And is that okay to do? Because
with kids, you just lie, whatever. But it just gives you sort of a way out of that struggle. Or the other thing I'll do is I'll say, give me one good reason why I should let you do that. And then no matter what they say, I go, not bad. Dude, that's a piece of compliment.
I love that.
I do think with kids and dogs, they have to be really careful not to unleash a command and then not follow up on it. But you can't be controlling or punitive either. So you have to figure out.
We are going through that with our 4-year-old. It's like, oh, I said don't do that. And now what am I going to do? She's fighting it.
So try to give me a reason. Give me,
Mm.
I just want to hear, why should mommy do this? And then whatever she says, if you know you're going to lose the battle, right? Just like, some battles you're like, why did I say turn off the TV? Why did I do that? Or even get off but then just find a way so that they feel empowered, you feel empowered, and then wait for your next opportunity.
And again, I guess that theme of self-compassion too.
We all lose it. We all get lost and need help to be found, and we all lose it, all of us. And even people that you don't imagine would lose it. I have been fortunate enough that I do have a number of very significant CEOs in my practice. And I've decided, it's really too bad I can't have them tell each other, but a bunch of them, I now say, it's 3:00 in the morning club, where you wake up and you go, can I possibly do this? Can we possibly do this? Whether it's running a $100 billion company or finishing your book or getting through the day, whatever.
With a 4-year-old and 18-month.
Oh my God, you're in the hell year still. Yeah. God bless you. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like you're at a pool and you go, oh, look at that. People can read.
There's no reading at the pool.
What did I have to do all day? But yeah, a lot of the principles in real-time leadership, I didn't think of it at the time, or I would have said it, is it really helps with parenting. Now, it really helps in your relationships. We all need help and we all need support.
Well, what other key points do you think come up as you think about that from your book that could help the mom that is struggling and also has that full-time job, the new manager, the new leader at a company?
There's so many things. One is it's really hard. The whole thing about your external demands. How can you help yourself? I was going to try and really quickly show you, like, no, wrong thing. But I mean, it's just amazing. Your to-do list, like this long list. How to help yourself prioritize as much as you can and really be okay as possible that you have 2 lives. And it's really hard when your boss, for example, has 1 life. How do you advocate for yourself in a way that doesn't make it feel like you're on the mommy track now? But is it that you can say, listen, I have a number of responsibilities and I'm trying to be true to all of them. And so, yes, I will work here, but I do need to pick up my child at school now. And not to do it in a strident way or a victim way, but just like, this is my life. These are my choices. And how to keep a self-respect, not that you're kind of less than, so frankly, not that you're better than, but how to just help yourself kind of get a sense of what really matters to me and why, and how can I move in the direction I want, and how can I increase the likelihood that I can reach my goals. Because sometimes it's not, I get to reach them right now. It's how do I increase the probabilities of my reaching them?
That made me think of something I learned in the master's program I was a part of, that maybe you're familiar with it. There's this concept of the parent, adult, and child ego state, where you can come to parent. So for those who don't know it, so if you go into a parent ego state, it might trigger the other person to go into a childlike state where it's kind of not even, not equal. Or if you're coming from a child ego state, it might trigger the other person to a parent ego state where it's more, I'm struggling how to explain it, but like parent-like, that kind of energy versus adult to adult. And that's kind of what I got a sense from what you were just saying, like asking for what you need in an adult to adult way, not in a victim, like I'm the child, you're the parent, or the parent condescending, but more like a equal, this is what I need in order to be successful, I guess.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know I was saying that, but you're exactly right. And I've taught that model.
Oh, cool.
Coaching courses. It's called transactional analysis.
Oh, yes.
So in the transaction, all states are good. So a lot of time you need to be in the parent state or the state, the whatever. And the child state can be a state of play and joy and creativity. And so it's not that the adult state is better, but it's one of them. And you're exactly right. And it works two ways. Like I can be parent-like, and that brings out the child in you, or I can be parent-like, and it brings out the counter-parent in the other person.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Or I'm suddenly childlike, let's say in a good way, being like, oh, come on, let's go do this. Let's be naughty, you know, and you go, yes, 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 yes. And so we both wind up having, so I pulled you into another child state. Now it could also be, I'm going to throw my toys out of the pram and I'm going to throw them at you and you take your toys and you. So what's important though is I would put that in the second dimension of leadership in terms of who am I being? And the question that Marshall Goldsmith took from me, acknowledging me all the time, he calls it the Carol Kauffman question. Then you ask yourself, am I being the person I want to be right now? And then using that as a way to kind of help yourself pause and answer that question.
Thank you for sharing that question. So I was in a training that you gave here in the North Texas area, and you shared that question. Do you mind repeating it one more time?
One way is when you're already in motion to ask yourself, am I being the person I want to be right now? But now let's flip it, and it hasn't happened yet. It's like, okay, who do I want to be right now? Who do I want to be? If you are at the cashier, right? And then the cashier is talking really slowly on her life story, and you're in a hurry, and there's 8 people behind you. And just as you're about to make that cutting remark, who do I want to be right now? Who do I want to be right now doesn't mean that you stay passive and sweet. You then have the lean in, lean back, don't lean, lean with. Then it's like, okay. And, or as you would say now, which I like, sort of an adult, as opposed to parent reaction might be, excuse me, there's a lot of people online right now. I'd be good if you either called another person, whatever, opposed to, excuse me, hello, there's people here, what is wrong with you? Right. So
you're funny, Carol. Do you know this about yourself?
People say that to me.
You're funny.
Good. That's a compliment.
Yes, it is. No, yeah, I mean that in a good way. Yes.
Oh, no, it's actually funny because I gave a podcast a while ago. A CEO actually heard and contacted someone at Egon Zender and said that he wanted to work with me or another person. And they said, well, why? And she goes, because I laughed. I was like in my car by myself laughing. And I thought, well, I think that I want to work with that person. I haven't heard from them since then, by the way.
Life gets in the way, but like there was something about your energy, because there's sometimes these serious issues seem like, I have to be heavy, and laughter just, yeah.
And most of my really serious confrontations are like this. Really? That's a good idea? That's it. It's just...
The tone you say it in too, probably. The tone, the way you say it. It brings some levity, I guess.
Yeah, because again, we all make mistakes. We're all idiots. We're all brilliant. We're all wise, and we're all idiots. All the same in that way.
Well, I'd love to just hear, you've coached a lot of people who are leaders of these big companies. And I wonder if there's someone listening who's like, what do I have in common with these big leaders, right? What are some common themes that you see that are really just part of the human experience?
Well, one of the things that a lot of times what a leader will do is work with me around their relationships with people on their team. That's really not that different. First of all, it's your top of the house or it's your very first team. So the level or the whatever may be different, but it's the same. Or again, as I said, the 3:00 in the morning club where the CEOs go, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Right? Or you're at your first job and you wake up in the night and go, I can't do this. Or I was listening to a podcast with Reese Witherspoon today, and for her, the role that she got nominated for an Academy Award, she said every single day for 7 months, she woke up with a clutch in her stomach and wanted to quit. And he went so far as to try and get her lawyer to make it legal for her to quit. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I want to quit. It's like, get me out of this. Get me out of this.
Because she felt she couldn't do it.
Exactly. She felt she couldn't do it. It was when she was playing June Carter and she had to get up in front of people and sing, and it was a real person and she had to learn these instruments, and she's like, I can't do it.
Is this the interview with Adam Grant? I saw
Yeah,
somebody. Okay. Because I saw something about it on social media and I was like, I want to listen
that's
to
good.
that.
Good. She's very bright. But the point is, it's for all of us. So something that's helpful. It just so happens that I'm working with these people at the top of the house, not because I'm a better coach than other people. That's just the pool I was thrown in, and it was scary. And
did you ever feel some insecurity as you were coaching these people that have these big titles?
never. No. What are you talking about? Me? I would have ever gave you that idea. But I'll tell you what helps. What I remember my very, very first CEO client, I think this was 2004, 2005. And someone I knew who was very intimidating, the head of a PR firm, said this was the most intimidating person she knew.
Ooh.
I know. And so before the first meeting with her, things were going through my head and I was going to be smart. It was like my very first CEO client. And it was like more money than I ever made before for one person. But I remember right before the session, a couple of minutes before the session, I'm like zipping through in my brain. And fortunately, I was able to, what I now know is not lean, and just said, wait a minute, Carol, your job is not to be smart. Your job is not to impress this person. Your job is to be of service to this person. And that kind of settled me down. And that's what helps me even today. It's like, wait a minute, how can I be of service to this person? That's for me, the kind of centering that helps me when for some reason I either feel that I don't know enough about their industry or they're really incredibly good looking. Or every now and then I've seen them on TV the day before. So yeah, again, I think for all of us, it's not how afraid you are. It's not how anxious you are. It's how you can stay connected and compassionate with yourself at that moment and find, why are you on this planet? And sort of find a confidence that's deeper than you.
Yeah. So even for those who are listening who are not coaches, tapping into that sense of purpose. Thank you, Carol. And where can people find your book? Where can people learn more about you and your work?
Okay. What people don't know. So if you guys happen to like me at all and want to help me, that would be really nice.
Yes.
Buy the book to like help Carol out. What people don't know is that the books you sell the very first week of launch are the books that determine your future. So anyone's here, if any one person buys a book this week, it's the same as someone else buying 50 books the next week. And no idea, because I'd hear it from my friends. Oh, pre-order is important the week. And I feel so badly because some of my friends, like Whitney Johnson, I didn't know that if I bought the book that week and I posted something on Amazon, it would be a huge help. I'm thinking, well, I can buy it now or I can buy it in 3 weeks. What's the difference? Well, those of us who are trying to make our way in the world and be known, it's a huge difference. So one thing is what David Noble, my co-writer, and I are thinking is that we may offer some kind of master class or special webinar to people who buy the book the first week and get a screenshot of your receipt and email it to us. You can email CK, my initial CK, at carolkaufman.com, CAROLKAU 2 Fs, MAN 1 N, CK at carolkaufman.com with a screenshot of the receipt. And you will be on the list that we will give you something because this week is the week that really matters to us.
Well, I hope that everyone buys Carol's book. I know I will. I'm going to set a calendar alarm so that I should buy it the week of. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Everything you shared was so generous. I'm sending you all the good vibes, Carol. Thank you so much.
Thank you.